On October 7th, my heart was broken when I became aware of the atrocities occurring in our world. Bombings, kidnappings, mutilation, murder. I'm reminded that not all Jews and Israelis are their government, just like not all Palestinians are Hamas. The intention of this episode is to highlight the civilians that are hurting at the unfolding of this international crisis. This episode was recorded on October 15th. Viewer discretion is advised.
Israel is at war.
We have active fronts of fighting in 3 different geographical areas.
That Hamas took even more hostages than we knew.
Airstrikes demolished over 3,700 residential buildings.
Residents are essentially living on the front lines.
This is already the single largest loss of life in a single day in Israeli history. So this will loom large now.
Welcome to another episode of Uncomfortable Conversations with Emmanuel Acho. Though our world is at war, may we never lose our appetite for humanity. Real hurt, real pain, real people. And I'm here to acknowledge it all as I ask you to do the same. I'm joined now by Palestinian American, Noura Erakat, a daughter, a mother, a woman who's dedicated her life to the fight for freedom, of which Palestinians should not be excluded. Noura, let me ask you, how are you doing in this moment in light of everything going on in your world?
I appreciate the question, Emmanuel. It's very hard. It's very hard. I'm pushing through a tremendous amount of grief, anger, anxiety. We're all sitting on the edge of watching a mass atrocity take place in 2023.
When you say we, who is the we you're referring to?
I'm speaking as a Palestinian. I'm speaking, as you mentioned, I am the daughter of Palestinians. My ancestors are Palestinians. I do this for them. I do this for my daughter and the generations to come. I do this for all people.
How has this impacted you personally? Because obviously from a professional standpoint, this is something you've dedicated your life to, but you're more than your occupation. So how has this impacted you personally on a human level?
My cousin was traveling from Abu Dis to Bethlehem, another Palestinian city, and there was a checkpoint separating them on the day of his sister's wedding, June 26, 2020. He rented a Hyundai in order to decorate it as one would, to take the bride to her on her wedding day. There was a vehicle malfunction that's been demonstrated by an organization called Forensic Architecture. The car veers out of control, it hits the checkpoint. 4 Israeli armed officers are there. One of them falls, gets right back up on her feet. This is all on video. 2 of the soldiers shoot my cousin above the waist 6 times in 2 seconds. Then they leave him out to bleed to death. There's an Israeli ambulance that comes to check on the soldier, refuses to treat him. The Palestinian ambulance comes to treat him. They refuse access to the Palestinian ambulance. They leave him out to die. And then since then, have held his body hostage, his corpse, at the Greensburg Forensic Institute in Tel Aviv University. For the past 3 years, they won't let us bury him.
Just hearing that story is gut-wrenching. So when you recant that story, what emotions run through your body?
For a long time, I couldn't tell that story without crying. Because it's very traumatic, because it was also public. Everybody watched it. It was disgusting and horrifying. And we fought really, really hard just to get his body back. There's something about being Palestinian where you're not born in Palestine. This is survivor's guilt. Like, what fortune had it that my parents, birthed me in California as opposed to Rafah or Gaza City or Khan Yunis, where I could be right now. Absolute fortune that I'm here and not there right now. The thing that I've done and that I've learned to do is that I don't struggle from a place of guilt anymore. I did that for a long time. But I struggle from a place of love. And that love enables me to be hopeful about a future and enables me to forgive myself to also live. And today, however, was especially hard because I saw the news that a 71-year-old landlord attacked a mother and her child in their home, their landlord. He knocked on the door, began to strangle her, screamed that you Muslims all must die, and then stabbed them. Stabbed the 6-year-old boy, Wadi' al-Fayoumi. Let us speak his name. 26 times. 26 times. And that horrifies me. That horrifies me.
Are you scared to walk around as a Palestinian in America today?
I'd be an idiot not to be. Especially after what I saw today. Well, if you read my inbox too, some messages literally tell me, go back to Palestine so we can kill you too.
Wow, you get messages like that?
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm so desensitized. I'm so used to it. And even if I told somebody, it doesn't raise the same amount of concern.
When do you allow yourself time to be human?
Right now with you, I suppose. I'm being very honest. I'm vulnerable in front of your entire set. It's really hard. I don't know what they think. I don't know if they think I deserve to be free. This is my greatest vulnerability and my greatest strength, to be able to say that and to do it over and over again.
What is someone who is on the outside looking in supposed to make of the atrocities that occurred on October 7th?
I hope that they feel horror. This should be mind-boggling, but I hope that they also ask, why?
But that seems like an insensitive question to ask in the midst of rape, mutilation, murder, bombings. To ask why is what many would submit is a insensitive question to ask, and this is not the time to ask why when babies are being killed, when women are being killed, when families are being murdered. To ask why in and of itself seems like an insensitive question, many would suggest.
What is at stake when we don't ask why? After we mourn the atrocity, because we're human and there's grief, what is at stake when we do not ask why?
History repeating itself.
What we're seeing right now. No civilian deserves to suffer, but that does not absolve us of asking, how did we fail as an international community? It is gut-wrenching to be watching this and then to be hearing people around me basically say it's our fault.
Can you paint the picture of the Palestinian experience over the last 70 or 80 years or since the late 1940s?
In the aftermath of the Arab-Israeli War in 1948, 800,000 Palestinians are removed from their home and not allowed to return. They are forcibly exiled. Their homes are taken over. None of this is controversial. None of this is the new Israeli historians have verified this. Palestinian historians have shown this in tremendous, painstaking detail. What is controversial is whether or not it's okay for Palestinians to be sacrificed in this way, because Jews have suffered so much, and especially in the aftermath of the Holocaust.
Because people have told me, make sure you fall on the right side of history. But the problem is that one people group is telling me, make sure you fall on the right side of history. Another people group is telling me, make sure you fall on the right side of history, but their sides of history are different. How would you respond to that?
Well, it depends on how you define those people groups. I think that the worst way to understand this is as an ethnic or religious conflict, right? This isn't Jew versus Palestinian. You cannot understand this as Jewish versus Palestinian because that's not fair to Jews.
Elaborate on that.
That's not fair to Jews. Jews have said, we are Jewish. That means a lot of things to a lot of people, right? They see themselves as a people beyond a religion, right? But not necessarily as a national group, which is Israeli. And so they have fought alongside Palestinians for a better future.
Your issue, or the Palestinian issue, is not with Jewish people.
Never has been. Never has been. There are Palestinian Jews. Why would we have any problem with Jewish people? I would claim that it's a problem with Zionism.
How can both Jewish people and Palestinian people have the right to self-determination?
Well, one of the ways that I've described it is that we have to understand that we have the right to all belong to this land, but not necessarily to be masters upon this land. So let me put this question back to you. What do we do if that's the condition? What I'm told as a Palestinian by people who think, well, that's too bad. We needed to create a homeland for Jews, and you're sacrificed in history. You cannot extinguish a people's thirst for freedom.
Do you believe one can both be a Zionist and be a lover of Palestinian people?
How? Not according to me, but Zionism has basically defined even the most liberal forms of Zionism. Believe that the majority of Palestinians who have been removed from their homeland and are now exiled as refugees cannot return. Palestinians have literally, since 1968, said that they want to establish a single state for Jews, Muslims, and Christians.
There's a lot of dissension over that phrase, open-air prison, that Gaza is an open-air prison. Why do you say that it is?
How would you define a prison? We define a prison as a place of captivity, one of cages that restricts people. Gaza has a beautiful shoreline on the Mediterranean Sea that Palestinians can't fish from or swim into beyond 3 nautical miles. We have the most beautiful coastline. Palestinians do not have the right to leave or enter without military permission. There are 5 points of entry and exit. 4 are controlled by Israel, 1 is controlled by Egypt. They do not have the right to control commerce that comes in, including food. And in the first years of this siege, Israel had an explicit policy of maintaining Palestinians on a food caloric deficit. They do not have the right to build, to travel. They're trapped. They're trapped.
What can I, someone who's not Jewish, someone who's not Palestinian, in 2023, what can I do to support you here on today, going forward? What can someone like me do?
I think everyone can commit to freedom for all people.
What's that look like practically?
Well, we can all be free. My freedom doesn't threaten yours. Your freedom doesn't threaten mine.
How does this end?
We end it by committing to the sanctity of all civilian life. That's it. Full stop.
Well, Noura, thank you for your vulnerability. And thank you just for your time and sharing your heart. I appreciate it.
Thank you for doing the same.
And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Uncomfortable Conversations with Emmanuel Acho. Remember, justice will not be served until those that are unaffected are as outraged as those that are affected. So let's continue to collectively fight for justice and fight for freedom. We'll see you next time.